Jesse Faden lived an interesting life. Before she became the director, she experienced an altered world event at a very young age, with the disappearance of her parents, the abduction of her brother, and with the new alien inside her head. Jesse's life was anything but ordinary, and she was desperate to find the truth. Here is the story of Jesse Faden and how she became the director of the Federal Bureau of Control. Jesse Faden was born in 1991, and a year later, her little baby brother Dylan was born. Jesse didn't have a ton of memories of her parents since she lost them so young, but she recalled her mom once telling her that chain emails were evil and that was really it. Instead, Dylan was the most important person in Jesse's life. Growing up, the two children were inseparable and adored one another. As children, Jesse would read to her little brother often, reading Dylan's favorite book about trains, and Jesse would remember these moments for the rest of her life. But even when she was young, Jesse spoke often about wanting to be out on her own, out in the world. Until then, Jesse and Dylan's bond lasted for many years, until an accident at the local landfill. August 30th, 2002 started out as an ordinary day in ordinary Maine. 11-year-old Jesse and 10-year-old Dylan went to go play at the town dump like they often did, but this time was different. The dump felt different. They found a way in, deeper into it, like it had somehow shifted. Inside, they found the slide projector. Alongside the slide projector, the children also found slides that opened up doors to other worlds. Excited by this discovery, Jesse and Dylan would visit these worlds often for the next 2 weeks, and sometimes they would bring their friend Neil along with them. The first dimension was a room with dirty wallpaper and endless dolls on a shelf. It was empty, so the children played there a lot, and it became their secret playhouse. The second dimension was called Meadow, an empty lot with a shack and a bunch of weeds. It had an intoxicating smell to a powerful extent, so much so that the children believed it was giving them dreams. Within these dreams, the world would melt, everything would melt, and even when the children stopped dreaming and left the slide dimension, everything around the projector had also melted. Jesse didn't like these dreams because she felt like she was losing control. The children named the third slide Temple, a broken warehouse or bomb shelter made of concrete. Inside of it was the Knot Mother and her babies. The final slide was Slidescape 36. The children named this slide dimension the Hand. Within it was a desert landscape. There was no sound there and radios didn't work. All that was inside was a resonance. It was here that Jesse and Dylan discovered an alien intelligence. Jesse would name this alien Polaris, after the North Star, which she had just learned about in school. Polaris told the children that they were special, and she made them special. For Jesse, it felt like being born or reborn, the world fading in for the first time, familiar but somehow different. Jesse and Dylan had fun in the slide dimensions, but one day the town bullies beat up their friend Neil to force him to tell them where the slide projector was. Tom and his bully buddies stole it, set it up, and began visiting the worlds inside. Inside the temple slide, the children were being influenced to feed off the milk of the Knot Mother. They began changing, turning into little monsters. Jesse and Dylan called them dung monkeys. But these little monsters became real monsters. The Knot Mother and her milk made the bullies even worse. They got scarier. So scary that they killed their teacher. They pushed a piano on her and bashed her head in. It was this event that finally made the adults of the town realize that something was wrong. The police intervened, and as the bullies were being taken away, one of them screamed the whole time that the Knot Mother would make them all go away. Alongside the detainment of the murderous children, a curfew was enacted for all of the children of Ordinary. Jesse and Dylan's parents were especially upset at everything going on. They tried to ask their children about the dump and what had happened, which only upset Jesse and made her wish that they'd just leave her alone. The following morning, when Jesse and Dylan woke up, their parents were gone. Every single adult in Ordinary had vanished. Jesse wondered if her wishful thinking had been the reason. The adults of the town going missing would cause several of the children of Ordinary to all come together to try to stop whatever was happening. But first, they needed to find the stolen slide projector. When Jesse did find it, she realized that more children had been changed by the not mother. Desperate to end whatever was going on, Jesse grabbed the projector and ran away as fast as she could. But while Jesse and Dylan were running away, Dylan fell and hurt his knee. Jesse tried to help, but the dung monkeys were coming. Just as they were about to get Jesse and Dylan, their friend Neil showed up. But now he too had changed, becoming some kind of melted dog. With Neil's help, they got the slide projector back, but they couldn't get it to turn off. So Jesse had an idea. Change the slide to the hand, the one with Polaris. Once she changed it, both the dung monkeys and the not mother vanished, but so did Neil. As soon as Jesse had changed the slide, she heard the comforting voice of Polaris, and Polaris promised to help. With her, the slide projector was finally turned off, and the Altered World event ended after 2 weeks. After this, Jesse took all of the slides and burned them, all except slide 36, the one with Polaris. After the disappearances in the town were reported, 2 weeks later on September 14, 2002, the Federal Bureau of Control finally showed up to the now ended AWE. Director Trench and head of research Dr. Darling led a team to discover what had happened. When they arrived, they found the Faden children, who led them to the slide projector and the slides. But when Jesse and Dylan tried telling the agents about what happened, they tried to detain them and take them. Jesse was able to escape, but Dylan was not. After this, Jesse would be alone, becoming an orphan at the age of 11. With no parents and no brother, she drifted from place to place. The guilt of leaving her brother behind would also eat her alive. She felt horrible about not saving him too, and even worse that he had been taken. After this, she would feel like no one could rely on her because she would just fail them too. This feeling of failing him and her parents always loomed over her, so she vowed to find Dylan once again. She dedicated her life to it. She would find the government agency from that day, and she would find her brother. Jesse tried living a normal life at first, even though she was constantly paranoid. She held numerous jobs as an adult, drifting from one to another, even once holding the position of a janitor. Several of these odd jobs would be night shifts, letting Jesse be a loner. She would come to understand how these kinds of jobs made people look at you weird, which she was used to. But Jesse really struggled. She traveled often via trains, but without a ticket, just trying to get by. What Jesse didn't know at the time is that while she was searching for the Federal Bureau of Control, they had been watching her since the events of Ordinary. They watched her work as a janitor, pet dogs on the street, read books, shoplift. They watched her eat and even watched her sleep on benches and watched as she got robbed, all as they monitored her every move. They watched her struggle and move all around the US so that she could find them. Looking back at what happened in Ordinary, Jesse tried to understand it, tried to tell people about it, but no one believed her, and the Bureau had covered it up like it had never happened, claiming that it was some kind of industrial accident. But Jesse's dreams told her the truth. She dreamed about Ordinary, about her family, and she even saw the seal of the Federal Bureau of Control in her dreams. Over and over she saw it. Unfortunately, with no evidence of what happened and with no one believing her, Jesse was placed in psychiatric care. When speaking to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist asked Jesse questions that made Jesse reflect on her childhood and sort of recontextualize how she felt. But she also asked about a poem. Jesse had told the psychiatrist that she had read a poem by Tom Zane. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there is a miracle illuminated. A poem that seemed to really resonate with her. When the psychiatrist asked Jesse about it, she suggested that it suits Jesse so well that maybe she wrote it. Jesse said no, Thomas Zane wrote it. But when the psychiatrist tried to look up the poem, she couldn't find a poet by that name, only a European filmmaker who had moved there in the 60s. But the poem wasn't the focus of the appointment. Instead, the psychiatrist wanted to explore how Jesse felt like a piece of her was missing, how she had this emptiness inside of her, a yearning for something she thinks she lost. She just didn't know what. To this, the psychiatrist tried to reassure her that this was natural because her brother and parents were dead, which wasn't true, and Jesse knew it. The psychiatrist was either trying to truly make Jesse believe none of it was true, or she was lying because she was most likely an undercover agent of the FBC, trying to gaslight Jesse into believing everything had been in her head, trying to reframe what happened in Ordinary, that her parents and Dylan were dead, and she had simply been repressing the memory of what had really happened. They tried to put ideas in her mind, that it was her imagination that fabricated the events at the dump, that the slide projector and the world she visited were all fake, that Polaris was a creation that she made up to supplement her loneliness.
I feel an emptiness, a yearning for something that I think I lost.
It's natural for you to feel that way. Your brother and your parents are dead.
No, Dylan's not dead. And that's not even it.
You're referring to the imaginary friend from your childhood?
Polaris, she's come back. After a long time, she's calling me. In a dream I saw, she showed me things.
Jesse.
It felt more real than anything. As real as what happened in Ordinary.
The psychiatrist even tried to suggest that Jesse may have related to the discarded slide projector found at the dump.
A dump is a place for lost things. Things that have been thrown away. Did you ever feel that way when you were growing up, Jesse?
What? No. Yes, but that has nothing to do with...
Was there a slide projector at your home when you were small?
No.
Those were before your time, I suppose. But your family did look at photos together, maybe? In one form or the other?
Maybe.
When was this? Can you remember? At parties? Barbecues? How did it make you feel? Did your parents ever show pictures that embarrassed you? Was alcohol ever involved at these parties? Did your parents drink? Did that make you uncomfortable?
No, that's just stupid. Come on. That has nothing to do with this. Nothing. The slide projector...
Let me ask you this. As a child, did you ever fantasize about worlds inside pictures? Inside a painting? You know, stepping into a painting, into a hidden world, escaping and finding adventure there, away from your parents.
I don't think so. I don't remember. Maybe.
Jesse's loneliness wasn't really what the psychiatrist was trying to focus on. Instead, she wanted to know more about Jesse's paranatural abilities, trying to figure out how they manifested and presented. Something an undercover FBC agent would absolutely try to do. The focus of Jesse's sessions revolved around the psychiatrist trying to reaffirm to Jesse that she had imagined all of it, while Jesse refused to give in. There was no industrial accident. Dylan wasn't dead. Polaris wasn't bad. It was a cover-up, and the government knew about everything.
The industrial accident in your hometown? That you believe Polaris caused?
No, it wasn't an accident. There was no industrial accident, and Polaris didn't cause it. She saved me and Dylan.
Jesse...
No! It was a cover-up. The government knows about it. There were agents there. Agents from... I don't know exactly, but they took Dylan. I'll find them. I won't stop looking.
Polaris and Jesse had a complicated relationship. Beginning as a child, it seems like Polaris contacted Jesse more than once, but sometimes Jesse shut her out. But everything with the psychiatrist trying to tell Jesse her experience was fake and crazy only reaffirmed Jesse's belief in Polaris.
Polaris wants me to go to New York. There's a building there. I have to leave soon. I have to be there at a very specific time. Something hugely important is going to happen.
Jesse, you know we can't let you go until you're well. and that begins by understanding what's real and what's imagined.
The Bureau and their undercover agent, aka psychiatrist, didn't want to let Jesse go, telling her that they couldn't let her go until she knew that she was well, and her being well meant understanding what was real and what wasn't. But Jesse knew she had to listen to Polaris, and she knew she wasn't crazy. The details of her escape are unknown, but afterwards she would spend her days and nights in roadside motels across the country, on the road, on the run, and under the radar. It didn't matter what the Bureau and their lying psychiatrist said. Polaris was back, and Jesse was glad to hear her voice. She was telling Jesse to go to a very specific place at a very specific time. 17 years after the events in Ordinary on September 24th, 2019, Jesse's feelings about Polaris and her message became so intense that she finally had to do something about it. So she left her home in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and headed to New York. Before finally arriving at the oldest house, the Bureau had been monitoring her activity, watching her move from place to place, leaving Cheyenne and then heading to Sidney, Nebraska, then to Des Moines, Iowa, then Chicago, Illinois, South Bend, Indiana, Cleveland, Ohio, Bloomsbury, Pennsylvania, and then finally New York. She had been to New York a few times before, but this time was different. When Jesse arrived in New York, she made her way to where Polaris told her to go, and the mysterious building showed itself to Jesse. Once she entered those doors, her life would change forever.
We are lying to ourselves. The room's not the world. The world is much bigger and much stranger. There's a hole hidden behind that poster that leads to the real world. We all feel safe in that room. But sometimes something crawls out from behind the poster. And the ones that see it happen freak out and try to forget what they saw. I'm here. Why did you bring me here?
Upon entering the oldest house, Jesse meets Audie the janitor, someone she feels kinship with considering her own past as a janitor. He's a friendly face to Jesse. He tells her to go for the job interview and tell them that he sent her. When she finds herself outside of Director Trench's office, she hears a noise and enters, finding Trench with a gunshot wound to the head. Polaris tells her to pick up the service weapon, and then she is tested by the board. She shoots herself in the head, the standard application for the next director. Die and you fail, survive and you pass. The board approves her application, and she becomes the next director and Audie's assistant. Jesse then meets her new staff, Pope, Arish, Langston, and every new agent. They tell her about the lockdown, the state of the Bureau, and what Jesse calls the hiss. As she begins to learn more about the mysterious house, Jesse is both intrigued and confused. Everyone referred to her as the director. There were pictures of her as the director hung up all around the oldest house. But Jesse didn't consider herself a leader. She wasn't there to be the director. She was there to find her brother. She had wondered about him often, what kind of man he'd grown up to be, and if things were as hard for him as they were for her. But she was also there to get the validation that everything she had been told was the real lie, and everything that happened to her, to Dylan, to Polaris, was real. She wanted to be a part of this new world.
Everything here is crazy. Weird, but it feels right. Like how the world should be. I am in an infinite building leading to different dimensions, and I never want to leave. Even with all the horror, I'm happy.
This weird house and the weird paranatural world inside of it felt sane to Jesse. At least the right kind of sane. Within the oldest house, Jesse felt in control. Now, as director, she could finally learn the truth of what happened to Dylan. How after he had been taken away, his powers changed. How he became dangerous. She even wondered if Polaris kept her away from him on purpose because of it. In this new world, Polaris was the only friend that she had, and she helped her many times throughout Jesse's journey in the oldest house. Helped when she was almost taken over by the hiss, and also helped guide her to find Dylan. When Jesse and Dylan finally reunite, she realizes that this isn't the Dylan she was expecting. The hiss had infected her brother, and Dylan wasn't himself. He says the hiss made him better, that he's P6 and not Dylan, because Trench and Darling made sure of that. He begins chanting the hiss and trying to convince Jesse that she wants to say the chant too. Dylan also talks about their childhood and meeting Polaris, how he let the hiss in to get rid of her. And when he feels her inside of Jesse, he gets extremely upset. He talks about his dreams, about how he was an only child, a girl named Jesse Dylan Faden. He talks about the hiss breaking free of the oldest house and how he'd set it free. He talks about a dark place and a man named Mr. Door, who told him about many worlds that were side by side, on top of each other and some inside of others. He even talked about a dream that he was having of that very moment. What Dylan's saying doesn't make sense, but he tells Jesse to go to the Prime Candidate program to see the truth. When Jesse comes face to face with Polaris, the hiss is once again trying to kill Polaris and infect Jesse. She experiences an alternate reality, filled with menial tasks as she works as a nobody. Jesse is saved by Polaris, but Hedron dies in the process. With Hedron dead, now Polaris lives inside of Jesse. She also comes to realize that Dylan wanted Polaris dead the whole time. She even questions if it was really Hedron who put Polaris in their heads. If when they met Hedron all those years ago, if it was Hedron who was trying to teach Jesse, to trigger Polaris. She wasn't sure if she'd ever truly understand, but all that mattered was that she was stronger than Trench and the hiss. Now with Polaris inside of Jesse, she goes to where everything began, the slide projector. Through the slide projector, Jesse is sent to the astral plane, where she finds Dylan attacking it and the board. She is able to cleanse Dylan of the hiss, and afterwards he falls into a deep coma. When she finally shuts off the slide projector, the door to the hiss dimension is finally closed. With Dylan in a coma, Pope would continue to monitor him, trying to get to the bottom of his altered physiology, while Jesse returned to her directorial duties. Unfortunately, Dylan would stay in a coma for many years after this. In the meantime, Jesse would experience a distress signal from the board. They claim the nail had been attacked, and in turn the astral plane is bleeding into the oldest house, and Jesse needs to repair it. Throughout the course of her repairing it, Jesse learns that the board may be lying about their power and connection to the oldest house. She meets the former, who also makes Jesse question the board even more, especially when they withhold abilities from Jesse. Tensions build as the board tells her not to listen to the former. Her loyalty to the board, which was probably always questionable since Jesse never truly trusted them, had now begun to falter even more so. After she cleanses the nail, the board tells her to fix her attitude, and Jesse tells them, "Fuck you." After the issue with the nail is fixed, Jesse then begins hearing the voice of Alan Wake. He's stuck in the dark place trying to write his way out, this time using Jesse. Following Alan Wake's voice, she kills Dr. Hartman, and then Langston tells her of a new AWE alert from Bright Falls, Washington from several years in the future. And that is the end of Jesse's story in Control. For several years after this, the oldest house remains in lockdown. Dylan remains in a coma, and Jesse tends to her directorial duties. She's trying to stop and control the hiss and mold infestation, on top of other new threats. She is seen around the bureau fighting enemies, watering plants, and even wearing her little cat ears. To help fight the many threats growing within the oldest house, Jesse creates the Altered Items Utility Initiative in 2022. A few years later, the Firebreak Initiative was formally recognized by Jesse in 2025. But as the threats continued to evolve and multiply, the oldest house needed restructuring. So per Jesse's orders, Jesse and the majority of the Bureau have moved to a central location. Now operating from Central Executive, the Firebreak Initiative teams handle the spread elsewhere. Jesse is last documented to have been seen around 2025, but as of 2026, her location is unknown. Jesse is seen in the initial resident trailer with a new hairstyle and jacket, similar to Marshall's, looking at documents regarding the ordinary altered world event from her childhood. She then impales Dylan with the aberrant, seemingly waking him up, and then she disappears. In a leaked FBC document regarding Dylan, she is mentioned as both still being the director and also being missing. Now that Dylan is awake, he'll be helping the Federal Bureau of Control while also searching for his missing sister. And that is where Jesse is by the time of Control Resonant, somewhere unknown. We don't know where she is, and I can't wait to find out. I also just want to say the portion about Jesse and her psychiatrist are unconfirmed. We don't explicitly know if the psychiatrist was an FBC plant, but to me it does read that way, which is why I told that section of the story that way. It's also possible that she just happened to be under the care of a psychiatrist and the FBC obtained those records. I suppose that's up to your interpretation. I just wanted to point that out since, again, heavily implied, not confirmed. There's also, of course, more to Jesse's story and Control, but I just wanted to focus on Jesse the person, not like all the things she does and the items that she binds to and that kind of stuff. I didn't want to just recap the entire story of Control. If you do want a recap of Control, I do have a video for that though. And if you're looking for more Control lore videos, I have several, and we'll have one every Sunday and some Wednesdays at 9 a.m. PT. I'm absolutely loving covering Control. It's such a weird universe, and I'm so excited to see where the franchise goes. By the time of making this video, there have actually been more things that have been revealed, but I don't want to cover kind of like spoiler territory, especially for those who kind of want to go in blind to Resonant. So those will be in another video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, as it really helps the channel. I will also be, of course, covering Resonant lore after it releases, so make sure you stick around for all of that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members for all your support. I am so appreciative. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week.